Welcome to Massive Action, a mass inbound podcast that enters the minds of those who are taking action at the highest level in order to dominate their arena and achieve success. Today's guest, we have Kyle Volstad with Athlete Restoration Company, a longtime friend, and I've been able to see him travel through business and his voyage through business for the last couple of years. It's been an amazing voyage, and I am so happy to have Kyle on our podcast today because he has experienced so much stuff. I've seen him literally go from a room in a gym to having an awesome facility and team. So I love having you here. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for I appreciate the invite. I'm excited to be here and share some anecdotes, some stuff.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk. We'll get through some stuff.
We got a handful of questions to learn more about Kyle himself, his business, and then how marketing and his entire voyage has kind of helped him grow as a person, as a business, as an entrepreneur, everything. So we're going to jump right into it. The first thing that we want to know is more about you, Kyle. Can you tell us a little bit more about your voyage as a sports physical therapist?
Yeah, totally. For sure. So I was born and raised in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I went away to school in Quincy University in Illinois, which is a small private Catholic school. And I had the fortunate opportunity to play two sports. I played football and volleyball in college. Awesome. And then I had never seen snow until I went to college because I was born in South Florida. So that was a huge culture shock, going to the Midwest and like different culture, never seen snow. And I quickly learned that I wanted to live in South Florida when I finished that up, which was, so shoveling snow in like 0-degree weather and wind. Oh my God, my jaw would be frozen when I come back inside.
Not
crazy.
Fun.
No.
Yeah.
And then I went to University of Miami for physical therapy school. I met my wife, then girlfriend. We finished up our doctorate program, took the boards, passed, went out to Houston where we did some post-professional training. She did an orthopedic residency, and then we both did a sports ortho fellowship program for like clinical reasoning and manual therapy, and met a lot of great people and great mentors that really shaped who we feel like we wanted to be like, you know what I mean? And got some other examples of who we didn't want to be like. Like, I want to be like you. I don't want to be like you. I want to be some of you. I want to be a lot of you, put them all together, and that kind of make our own like eclectic version of a sports PT that we want to be.
Yeah. Of course.
I feel like an eclectic version like that's the best option always.
Now, did you know going into undergraduate that you wanted to do physical therapy?
No. Okay, good question. So my original plan was to be a firefighter. Okay. I wasn't even going to go to college unless I got a scholarship opportunity to play sports. And like I said, I got a fortunate opportunity. I got a football scholarship, a volleyball scholarship, and an academic scholarship. I had that and that was pretty late in the game too. I was like a late senior about to graduate high school. And my plan was to just go straight into EMT fire college, either locally or Orlando or somewhere, right? And that was my plan. Because I was like, man, be a firefighter, be a great career, get work 24, 48 off and great benefits and security. It'd be fun and engaging team atmosphere. So late in the game, my high school career, a small school approached me and was interested. So I was like, let's do it. Let's go.
Wow, that's an interesting story.
Just jumped into it, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I studied medicine in my undergraduate as well, biology, and a lot of people knew that they wanted to do that going in, right? Yeah. It's like a very rigorous academic study. Yeah. It's not something that you're just like, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. So a lot of people knew that they wanted to. Yeah. But you just kind of found a pathway. Was there something in undergrad that said that made you think that you wanted to go that route, a class that you took? Or
So I have two experiences. When I was in high school, I had to take one more science class in senior year, and I was like, man, I think anatomy would be kind of cool, and I just took an anatomy class, and I did well in it, and I liked it, and that's what made me pursue biology, a major in biology in college. But still going into that thinking I was going to be a firefighter. I was like, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe if I'm a paramedic in the future, I have some biology background then. I just enjoyed science and anatomy and biology and stuff. Wow. So in undergrad, I had a major in biology, still with pursuing the goal of pursuing firefighting. So everyone was like, why are you majoring in biology? Why don't you do like communications or something,
Yeah, it's a lot harder. You're making it a lot harder.
Right, exactly. I was like, I don't know, I like it, It's just kind of cool. So I was taking all my biology classes. I was doing pretty well, still challenging, of course, to navigate being in season all the time with football and traveling and practice, and then waking up at 6 a.m. for meetings and workouts. And then come January, volleyball season. It was the same thing, I remember my freshman year in college, I was in the middle of volleyball season. All right. And I was doing football workouts. No, sorry, this was football season. First semester football season, fall of 2007. All right. I was doing football practice, football workouts. I did volleyball conditioning because it was my first like semester in school. I wanted to be with the team in volleyball. So I would have meetings, volleyball conditioning, workouts for football, then football practice. And then that night we would play like intramural basketball or just pick up basketball in games and stuff or kickball or something like that. Yeah, so I was like, it was a lot. And it was fun, but I didn't realize like by the end of the football that semester, I was like beat down.
Yeah, burnt out.
It was burnt out.
With academics and double sports and college, that's tough.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I always tell people it was good because it kept me out of trouble. It kept me on the right track,
Of course.
Kept me away from distractions a little bit more than I was already being distracted.
Yeah, I don't know how much more extracurricular activities you can do. So,
but it was good. But it was fun, but anyway, so I was majoring in biology and I was still trying to navigate scheduling and actually studying and stuff. And then my senior year in college, all right, up until the last semester of my senior year of college, I was still like firefighting's my thing. Like I know what I'm doing. All right. I'm going to finish up grad school or undergrad and finish my bachelor's degree and go to fire school. But I was on a phone call with my dad. It was like late semester, but I was about to graduate in like 2 months, right? And he was like, "How you doing? How was school? Like, how you have any essays or tests coming up? Like, how'd you do?" I was like, "Actually, I had a test recently this past week. Got an A, kinesiology or whatever. In biology, we did this." And he's like, "You're doing pretty good. You ever consider like maybe physical therapy school instead of like firefighting?" And I was like, "Huh. I'll check it out." Wow. So I was outside the cafeteria. It was actually a talent show night. We were going to do like this really dumb, silly dance, like with my buddies. It ended up not working out. Thank goodness. It would have been super embarrassing. But I was standing outside the cafeteria waiting for our time to go up. And that was the phone call I had with my dad. And at that point forward, complete different trajectory change. Wow. And I just started researching physical therapy stuff. And I was graduating like in a month, or 2 months. And that's when I started to reach out to people and some mutual contacts that I had and people in the field. And that's when I really started pursuing it.
Yeah. And I think that goes to show people you don't have to know exactly. It's not a really, really clear defined map from getting to where you are currently to where you want to go.
Right.
Not everyone knows. And it does take people time to develop, and just doing something allows you to kind of create an understanding of what you do like and what you don't like. And then that guides you to being who you are today. Yeah, but you have to do stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
I think you guys know, you're familiar with Myron Goldman?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just was introduced to this person on YouTube and podcasts and stuff recently. And I was like, this is solid. Like he's saying a lot of solid stuff.
Yeah. He has a lot of good content.
And he was like, he always hears entrepreneurs always saying like, well, I got to get this done first, or I got to figure this thing out first. I'm getting ready. I'm preparing myself to get ready. I'm preparing myself to be prepared so I can get ready to then be ready, to then maybe do. And I'm like, that makes total sense. And he's like, what you're doing is you're taking the time that it takes to become the person who's willing to do the thing. And it's just like, just do it.
So I can run down a rabbit hole in that conversation. Yeah. We can be here for 5 hours talking about that.
Totally.
I think one thing for me, though, because I studied biology just like you, and I think that type of environment, I was always preparing for something bigger. Right? Those tests were very rigorous. I was always studying. I was always doing the labs. All of these little things always led you up to properly preparing for the exams that you were going to take. And these exams were massive. In some of these classes, we only took 3 or 4 exams the entire year.
Yeah, so a lot of weight on those tests.
A lot of weight. Yeah. It's like 70% of your grade. So you have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to achieve success on those. Yeah. But because of that, when I got into business, I was always trying to prepare. Now, today, I tell people on our team to just do things. And I know that my in-depth kind of mindset on researching and due diligence and planning and preparation will draw things out too much. So now if I want to do something, I either click the button and just send it on myself. Like even if I don't feel fully prepared, or I'll click the button to make the call, I'll send the text for the conversation without allowing myself to think about preparing for it. Because if I send it and everything is good, well then I just thought about all this stuff and I had all this stuff in my head that didn't even exist, right? Like that whole fear is just not even existent. Yep. And that's what draws back. The fear of lack of preparation, I think, is something that I gained from probably undergraduate, and in an entrepreneurial world, it's a
lot of self-doubt. Yeah, self-doubt for sure. I'll totally hold you back. But But and so anyway, with that, I feel like, I guess, reflecting on these stories and some what you're just saying, I don't know. I just inherently, I guess, was willing to just say yes, just go. Because like when I signed for college, I didn't meet any coaches or the school. I didn't visit the school. I had never seen snow. This is like 1,200 miles away from home, right? I didn't even leave home ever, except for like a camp randomly, right? So like I just signed and went. Sounds good. Let's go, right? And then for PT schools, the same thing. I was like, okay, let's check it out. Investigate and just do it. Just roll with it. And then can you just handle it in stride as things come? So you're not gonna be perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing there is just doing it. And you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out as you go.
Because I had another mentor. It's like with business stuff. He's like, just do it. Talk to these clients or these potential clients, whatever. What's the worst that's possibly gonna happen? Imagine the worst case scenario. It's usually just your own made up fear of rejection or shame that comes with that. Mm-hmm. It usually is never as bad as you think, because people usually never even remember the interaction anyway. Yeah. With like the spotlight syndrome, where it's like, oh my gosh, everybody's knowing my shirt and my hair is not done today. Like everyone's going to notice.
Of course.
And then later on, nobody knew anything. You know what I mean?
You're getting yourself hyped up.
Get so hyped up and get over yourself. Like no one's going to remember. So even if you have a failed experience or a conversation with a client, like that went terrible, most likely that person's they're not going to write a book about it. They're not going to remember, you know what I mean? But at least you got a rep. And if you're okay with just the humility to be okay at sucking for a little while and then reflecting on that and learning from it and then just moving on, that's where you're going to be a little bit better spot than most people. They're not willing to do that.
It's almost like working out, right? Remember when you used to go work out, and I don't do this too much anymore, but you used to have those.
Working out or
no, working out. I work out, but doing like 1 rep max days.
Oh yeah.
I'm not trying to do 1 rep max days too much anymore. But
it's not worth the risk.
Back in the day, you would, right? And when you did do those, you don't know what your max is until you go and try something, and then you're going to hit something that you either didn't want to attempt because you didn't think you could, or that you overshoot it and then you fail, but you know that you're like right there. Yeah. The only thing that you can do is push your limit, fail, and then keep working at it, and you'll eventually hit it. And you'll just keep increasing that PR. The PR.
Totally.
So I mean that's a huge thing that you just got to get in the reps.
Yeah, totally. Just do it. Just be okay with, just do it. But I'd like to self-doubt. Another thing we're going to talk about in a little bit, imposter syndrome. Something I feel like I battled a lot my whole life. We'll talk about it in a minute, though.
Yeah. Before we get to that, one question I have is, fast forwarding after your education, after undergraduate, after postgraduate, how do you stay up to date today with your industry to make sure that you're at the forefront of everything you do? Obviously, getting the reps in and getting repetition gets you really good at what you do. Yeah. But everything changes and it grows and the environment changes.
Totally.
So what do you do for that?
Good question. So healthcare is definitely always an evolving state with the actual clinical competency, and then also just the rules, regulations, and the formulas and all those things that go into it. Yeah. And laws and regulations, whatever. But the actual clinical competency, like trying to be the best that we can and trying to be a leader in the industry, right? Like be the best in the field. I'm part of the fellowship program and orthopedic residency my wife did too, in Houston. They asked us to stay on as faculty for some of those continuing education courses. So I'm still active with that fellowship program.
Awesome.
And teaching courses to other clinicians of orthopedics and manual therapy. And I'd wanted to do that on purpose. I'm glad that they asked me to stay on board, because it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me in the research and it keeps me in the material, versus getting stagnant and complacent and then being dusty. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, I actually just got back this weekend. I went to Atlanta. Fortunately, my travel plans weren't delayed again like 2 weeks ago, which is insane. But I just was in Atlanta. I was teaching a course to a local orthopedic group in like Atlanta, Georgia, on manual therapy, clinical reasoning, rationale, and sports as it applies to like orthopedics and pain. So anyway, to answer your question, I'm involved with that sports and orthopedic fellowship program and still teaching courses kind of around the nation. Okay. The weekend before that, or 2 weeks before that, I was at LSU teaching an ortho sports manual therapy class to the course to the sports med team at LSU, which is a really cool opportunity, and met a lot of really great people. Yeah. But man, the travel home was terrible. I ended up driving home from Atlanta because all my flights were delayed. That next day, I had another course here in my new facility on the same thing for like 18 to 20 people that came. And I was like, if I If I don't drive home today, like my next flight available is until Saturday night.
Those
And the
flights are
course,
rough.
it was terrible. So anyway, I just made it happen. I just drove home,
Yeah.
So, but it worked. It worked out.
Awesome. So now we know how you got into sports physical therapy. We know the undergraduate experience. We know how the postgraduate experience kind of went and how that kind of fell into place with your with conversation with your father, and then now how you stay up to date.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and look at your business specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So Athlete Restoration Company is a business. The first question I'd like to ask is, what at the forefront of things when you were starting the business, what was the biggest hurdle for starting the business or getting it going and moving forward with what you wanted to do on your own?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would probably have to say mindset. The mindset problem of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and I'm going to be exposed as a fraud. I'm going to get laughed at. I'm going to be shamed, and I'm going to have to tuck my tail and go back to my previous employer and then ask, hey, can I get a job again? You know what I mean? Will you rehire me? I'm so sorry for what I did. Like, I was so silly. You know what I mean? That I think just the mindset and the fear of rejection and failure that I think is the number one thing that blocks prospective entrepreneurs from actually doing it. And being like, okay, I quit. I'm going to go into this. I think that's number one thing.
This question, I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but now seeing where your business is today, and I know you for a couple of years, so from where it was, do you ever feel like you could lose what you've built, or do you ever have that fear where you're like, oh man, we're running hot, business is a lot bigger, overhead's a lot bigger, that you fear one slip up and it can just fall through the cracks?
Yeah, totally. Yes and no. So maybe not one slip up, but usually every month at the beginning of halfway through, 3/4 through the month, right? Because I do my own business planning and budgeting and whatever. I do usually monthly seems to be the thing I go with every 4 weeks or 5 weeks. But anyway, usually 3/4 way of the month, I'll look at my spreadsheets and be like, well, this is it. Good run, guys. We're going out of business. And then I'm like, had to get myself back off the cliff and be like, it's going to be fine. Just stay consistent with the things that are going to be good for driving the correct pathways for being successful. But yeah, usually once a month, I'm like, this is it. Good job. I'm going to be on the street and I have a personal guarantee in my lease and like all this equipment. It was a good run. Gonna have to fire everybody that I had on staff. This is it. No, so anyway, I feel like it's normal for all the colleagues that I've talked with. That's a pretty common thing. So I have to bring myself back off the cliff. Like,
what I've done for that perspective, because I used to look at it the same, and as business continues to expand, the numbers just get bigger. The game is the same. The numbers get bigger. The business just expands. But what I do to make me not have to do that, because then I'll stress over it for 6 hours, is I condense things in a micro review. So I look at finances on a weekly basis. If I see something is down, I just say, okay, next week, this was an off week. Let's double down next week.
Yeah, totally.
So if I condense a little bit more, I feel like I have more time to go back and do something about it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I look at.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I shorten the window.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's business is interesting when you start to expand. There's things that come into play, other people's lives.
Right. I was going to say, like, you have other people on board that they're like that's a little bit more intense for people being like, man, I'm going to totally influence this person's life.
Yeah.
I feel like I inherently have kind of looked at it as in like, awesome. I'm going to change this person's life, make the best employment opportunity possible, not just changing my clients' lives, my patients, right? But like also my team members. Like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to do everything I can. This is going to be a great life, character building, trajectory change for my team member. What better opportunity for them to be employed here?
Yeah.
That's what I want to create. And I feel like I just inherently purposely go that route, which then dictates and shapes like the direction I go with them and my mindset going into that opportunity, Yeah,
and I agree. And I just look at, and I didn't have many employment opportunities before, right? I worked with my father, who was an entrepreneur, so I worked under his wing, which working for your dad is always different than working for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had some jobs in between, really my undergraduate and postgraduate, and I was in the finance industry for a little while. So there was employment there.
Yeah.
But I just look at what would I want as someone who's coming on board, and what is the environment that I want. I don't mind wearing suits every day, suit and tie, but not everybody does, especially if you're behind a computer working on things. We have a little bit of a different job opportunity where we can be behind computers and talk to people. So we don't have to be face-to-face with people. And because of that, do we need to be in suits and ties if we're just hanging out behind a computer, knocking work out all day? Not really.
Keep the attire low key.
Yeah. So
more comfortable.
It's definitely more of that tech-driven industry type of thing, right? I mean, it's very similar to what you see in those Silicon Valley type of places. So,
Totally.
Yeah, but no, that's cool. It's really interesting. What are you doing today to differentiate your facility and your sports physical therapy strategies compared to others in the industry to be the best?
Like from client and patient care, you're saying?
Yeah, from client patient care and just facility fundamentals.
Yeah, good question. So a couple things come to mind. One, where we purposely strive just one-on-one for an hour with everybody, so they get a full attention and for a whole 60 minutes. So we're not just like split attention, because I know people really, customer service will never be not like a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Of course.
That's always going to be in whatever automations and AI and stuff like that. People are still going to want customer service and high quality attention and care.
Agreed.
Like, dude, you tried hard. Like, thank you. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
Versus like the person at like on TSA, right? That's like not making eye contact with you and has an attitude.
Yeah.
It's like you're not even trying right
Experience
now.
is everything.
Right. So anyway, there'll always be that element for driving success. So anyway, we try to push for that for sure. Like one-on-one, and then authentically trying hard. Like just try hard. Clinically, critically think about each person's interaction and how we can help them to deep dive, just critically think. And I feel like in a low quality healthcare landscape that it seems to be going towards in the past 15, 20 years, we can be a breath of fresh air if we're like trying hard. You know what I mean? Let's put our thinking cap on here for a second and like ponder, why do you have this shoulder pain?
Yeah.
Tell me more about what's going on. Well, how do you sleep, right? What are your training schedules like? What's your nutrition like? What kind of things are making it worse? What's making it better? This doesn't make sense. You're doing something. Let's critically think and just try hard. And then the other one is even just like our administrator, right, at the front desk, first line of communications. I'm like, if we just try hard again and just have a good attitude, and like you're gonna be way better than anybody else in this whole landscape of healthcare. Yeah. It's like so common. You just call a doc's office or a PT place, and like the front desk just has an attitude and is like short and not trying hard. It's like what? Like what? Why? You know what I mean? If you just try hard and have a good attitude, it's gonna be a great breath of fresh air. So one-on-one for a whole hour, authentically trying hard and critically thinking and listening to patients legitimately, and then delivering the super high quality treatment of like clinical competency, which comes from like staying in the research and then the fellowship training that we went through, and then instilling that in our team members, so that the culture in our clinic is super high quality fellowship level care.
And I've been a patient of yours as well, and I can confidently say that is exactly the experience that you'll get. Every single team member that you have,
I appreciate that,
is very intelligent, very credible, very experienced, very knowledgeable about their trade and what they do. And then also, everyone is just very down to earth and super willing to understand you as a person, your everyday life and your activities, so that they can really understand what you're going through, but not even what you're going through today, how you got there.
Right.
Because it could literally be, oh, you need to shift. You're big on how you sleep.
Oh,
we've talked about this
a game
lot.
changer. It's a total game changer.
All of that, right? But if you don't know that about the person, if you don't know their daily activities and how they go through their daily life, then you're not going to be able to understand that.
Yeah.
But a lot of physicians, I mean, and this is another thing we can talk about for hours, but a lot of physicians are quick to prescribe you with something. Mm-hmm. This is, how can you get better? And how can you do actionable things
to solve the problem?
Exactly. For the long term, not just mask something or cover it up and keep it covered, but really the problem's still there. You're just hiding what's really going on.
Totally.
And that's why I love everything about what you do, because it's actually solving something.
I appreciate that. The metaphor we usually try to say is like, if your shoulder hurts, your back hurts, whatever the angry tissue is, it's like muffling. That's a fire alarm. It's saying something's going on, something's wrong, right? So it's like shoving a pillow against the fire alarm and duct taping it there to muffle the sound versus actually putting out the fire.
Yeah.
That's just an alarm. We got to like put the actual fire out.
Yeah.
So what's causing that? And then how can we focus on getting that to be fixed, which that will follow suit. The alarm will just stop. You know what I mean?
And, it takes work, right? Physical therapy takes work. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable sometimes, but it's
pain with a purpose.
Yes, it is. It is. No, definitely. It's like working out. Going back to that, right? Like if you don't feel the burn, you're not doing it enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not repping enough or whatever. Or even going for a run.
Yeah.
That's not fun either.
Totally.
But it's a process. And I think a lot of people want a quick fix, and quick fixes aren't the solution.
Right.
It takes work.
Yeah.
And if you work at it, you're going to get that solution.
Totally.
Now, we know now the fundamentals of the business that makes you different. How are people finding you, and what are you doing to create more business and continue to expand on the top end of the business?
Yeah. I've heard a couple people, I have a lot of things to say about that. Number one, to start off with, someone wise, a patient, actually, a previous patient of mine, he's a super successful business guy. He was like, I was explaining some stuff, and he's like, yep, marketing never stops. And I was like, that's totally true, right? Versus like, I met this one person, okay, now we're done. Things are going to be set on their way. It's like, yo, it never stops. Like, it's an infinite game, and an infinite, like, what's the next move and what's the next strategy? Do the next person to meet, next network thing. That's a constant priority. Marketing never stops. So I've other mentors described like the 3 arms of marketing for a local service-based business like myself, face-to-face, local networking and face-to-face relationships in the local community has to be number one, and the solid foundation always focused on.
Yeah.
That has to be the first and top priority, because word of mouth and local relationships and local networking will always be the most important and the best thing for a solid, deep roots relationships for your business. The second one being digital, right? Social media, a great website, a high converting SEO website, Google presence, SEO. That's all the stuff you guys do, right? Yeah. And client communications digitally. And then the third one would be like paid advertising, which I just started diving into a little bit after 4.5 years of business, of growing, like you mentioned, the growth, which has been really cool, right? I'm always learning new things and always want to grow better and be more efficient. I didn't even start digital ads until 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So everything that I've built, which is, some would say has been pretty good, right? It's pretty solid. I have 2 staff, full-time physical therapists on board, and I have a full-time administrator. And that was all built with those 2 arms. I didn't even add the third arm until recently.
Yeah.
Partly because I was blocked. I don't know why, that my Facebook ad was blocked. I'm like, I don't even know what I did wrong. I was like, well, screw this, man. I'm going to focus on what's really important, and I'll get to that later when I have time. But anyway, it seems like, to answer your question, marketing never stops. Have that mindset. And then local relationships and networking, social media, digital presence, SEO, Google presence for sure, and a high converting website, and then paid advertising.
Yeah, you and I have the same point of view in that perspective, even as a digital agency ourselves, where we have paid advertising at our fingertips and the leverage of an internal website team and the whole thing, even content. I still am I built the business going door to door, so very relationship driven. So I think that relationships and very close niche conversations with people are very, very powerful. But then taking that to the next level and taking that relationship and providing a very good service. And that's what I think both of us have done. We found people in the local community that were interested in our services. We created a very good product or service that we offered, and we really harped on creating a very powerful fulfillment portion of the business. And then when you have that, you can add the rocket fuel to it, which is the paid advertising.
Right.
Because if you can have a powerful and strong infrastructure, then you can have that repeatable process and the SOPs around it continue to compound.
Very similar. That's a good point you made. I've heard a couple people, mentors and people beyond myself in business, that are like, if you don't have the infrastructure to handle the rocket fuel, you're just going to implode.
Yeah, and I've seen it.
You have a bunch of digital ads put out there, you're blasting it everywhere, and you don't have the infrastructure to actually handle it. The rocket fuel is going to blow you up versus fuel will give you more fuel. You know
so
what I mean?
we've been on both ends of that. We've seen when a business comes to us and they don't have the infrastructure, we have to understand their infrastructure. So our team here does an audit on the company to make sure that they can fulfill. Yeah. Because if we get them 100 customers and they cannot fulfill that, one, it's going to be a bad relationship between the marketing agency and the company because
they're going to be frustrated.
It all comes down to making sure that they're making more money than they're spending on the advertising and marketing team.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't fall into place, then it doesn't make sense. And then two, I have seen companies that don't have the infrastructure and all they care about is the top line, and they just can't withstand the amount of people coming in to request business, and then the service lacks.
Yeah.
And if there's a terrible customer service experience, it just falls through.
Right.
And then you get bad reviews and the whole nine. And
you're just letting more people know faster that you suck. You know what I mean?
And it's tough. It's a tough
which is not good.
dig out of.
You know what I mean? Right, exactly. Once that reputation, it's hard to undo a reputation than to build a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. So like the question that I've asked some colleagues and stuff, I've been asked myself too, is like, hypothetically, let's say everything's going awesome and you're getting a ton of leads. Would you be able to handle it? What would that look like? Like, what's the leaky bucket?
Yeah.
If you're not getting enough leads and you have the great infrastructure to handle it, then boom, let's just boost lead generation.
Yeah.
But if you have a ton of lead generation, but everyone's falling out the back end and walking out the back door disgruntled, then that means your infrastructure and you can't fulfill the actual quality service. So focus on that first and then build out the rocket fuel. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, the question would be like, if you're getting a ton of leads, let's say it's going awesome, could you even handle it?
Yeah. And that's the first question that we ask all the time.
There you go.
Is, how many leads you're looking for? They tell us. Now, if we got that or if we got double that, would you be able to fulfill it? And what does that really look like internally? And that helps us understand. But one thing that you talked on is the local relationships. Can you expand more on the collaborations and the partnerships? I know that you do a lot, going to a lot of gyms and doing a lot of seminars.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that on how that has shaped your business? Because I know that's been powerful.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely shaped my business. Then the thought being like this, okay, never say no to networking opportunity. I've always thought and been told, I'm like, totally. Like if somebody is interested or there's an opportunity there, like investigate and dive into like, can we collaborate in some fashion? That's network, because you never know where that relationship's going to go.
Definitely.
And I feel like every single person has their own little bubble, their own networking bubble and their own word of mouth bubble. So like every patient that comes in to see us, we're always like, this is a bubble that we can expand on their word of mouth bubble and their relationships. Yeah. And every networking opportunity, same thing of like collaboration. They have their own little bubbles that we can expand on. The second thought being like, then what do you want? What's your main avatar, like your demographic that number one, you enjoy working with? And then what's your vision, your business? You have to water the grass of where you want the fruit to grow. So like if I'm not going to pursue relationships with people that don't fit my market, right? I'm trying to work with like active athletic people and demographic. Yeah. I'm not going to go market at like a neurovascular clinic, right? That's not my demographic. And I don't want my image to be confusing to people too, of like, wait, you're networking with these like neurovascular and like low functioning individuals, but you're also like networking with like sports. Like, are you sports or are you neuro? So anyway, it's like, I have to be consistent and purposefully pursue networking collaborations and opportunities with the people that I want to be associated with and reputation. That's going to grow the same one. And therefore I can spend more time watering that grass that will then bear the fruit later, which takes a long time, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think another part of that is like going into these, this mindset of like, there's never, usually hardly ever, if I meet a collaboration opportunity, am I going to expect them to send me people and refer people to me day one.
Yeah.
So if anybody's ever been in this business model, like mindset, and they go to some place or they've had somebody come to you, be like, hey, you have a great business. Well, hey, I know I just met you, but would you mind sending me people? Like, dude, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. I don't like you. I don't trust you. And right now, like, you seem slimy.
It goes back to that thing, like, don't ask someone to marry you on the first date type of thing.
Yeah, they're dating somebody. Date one, the goal is to just get date two. Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
And then walk away from that experience and they say, he was a cool guy. I didn't want to hang out with him. And then set up date two. That's it. And then date two, a little bit more of the same thing. Date three, date four. And then by that time, you're just supposed to develop more authentically. And then maybe later, once you've brought value to them, that's when they'll involuntarily be like, do you mind if I like send you people? I think I can handle that.
Yeah.
I think if you send me, that'd be really cool. But like, I didn't ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just authentically built a relationship, brought value to them. How can I help you and your business? We have a lot of mutual clients. We speak the same language. I like what you're doing on Instagram. How can we help you guys more? Like, if we did like a workshop with you guys, or like an injury prevention workshop, would that be cool for you and like your members? Would they like that? Oh my God, they love that. Totally.
Well, I think what you've done is you talk about that avatar, and that avatar is really important for businesses. And I don't think a lot of businesses spend enough time investigating who their customer avatar is, or client avatar,
to know like their language and how to talk and approach to them, and then what other businesses are seeing the same people.
It's far, far more important than people think. We do it more in depth than probably 8 out of 10 business owners do on their own business. But we do it because we want to make sure that when we're speaking to them on a paid advertisement campaign, we can get the best leverage out of it as possible.
Right.
But I think the one thing that you said is once you know that avatar, you're really successful at looking at a business and saying, okay, these customers are theirs, and this is their avatar, and then this is our avatar. Do they complement one another? And if they do, then you're just offering value to someone's business that complements their business already,
it's the same,
and actually helps their business. Because if they can have more people working out without injury, they're going to have more memberships, last longer, and continue to maintain membership because
let's drop off.
People are there.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So. Yeah, I think that you do really well at finding those people and adding a value to their already existing clientele.
Right.
Now, looking at the avatar, is there anything specifically that you think you've done, whether it's content marketing, paid ads, networking, or what's the most successful way for you to reach that avatar and obtain new customers?
Networking.
Yeah.
Local relationship networking, and purposefully investigating and just researching the local market of this particular demographic and avatar. This avatar, where do they go? Like, I have this list of like the demographic and features and qualities and characteristics of this ideal patient, this ideal client. Where do they go on Saturdays? If they go to the store, where do they go? What do they shop for? Right? If they have a problem, what does that problem usually look like?
Yeah.
What if they go to the gym? What do they usually go to the gym at? How often are they going? And then if they have problems when they're working out at the gym or they're trying to solve, what do those problems usually look like? And then how do we fit in that equation to solve some of those problems? And usually for that, the thing we've come up with is like, they usually want to be able to work out to lose weight, but they can't because their back hurts. Or they want to start this gym membership and they're super motivated, but all of a sudden now their shoulder hurts and they don't know why, but they want to work out. Right, but so where do they work out at? We can go meet them there, and the barrier to entry is the owners and the coaches of that particular gym, as an example. The other avenues are like concierge docs that we've really collaborated with, because they already are in the because we're out of network, right? We don't take insurance. We're just fee for service. We're cash to really solve a high quality deliver an experience and then solve problems legitimately. But if we pursue concierge industry already, then those clients and patients are already kind of in that out-of-network realm and expecting to not have to go through insurance to begin with.
That makes sense.
And actually, they don't even want to go through insurance because they know if they go through insurance, it's going to be a way different experience and usually a lot less quality. And they don't want that. So if they're already in that mind, I already know those patients, I have to fish in the right ponds. And if they're already in that concierge mindset, then it'll be a perfect fit. You know what I mean?
No,
so
definitely.
then, well, if that's the case, then I want those patients, who's going to send them to us? It's going to be the doc or even the nurse practitioners of those offices. So I have to make friends with those people. What do they do? Do they work out themselves? What are they into? And then stimulate conversation. How can I bring value to their practice and business? And that's how that usually initiates.
And you do a lot of content marketing currently to help educate consumers about certain things too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we've tried to prioritize once a week, me and my team, we do content development on Wednesdays after our weekly staff meeting. We then go into the gym and we just film content. And the things that we've tried to prioritize is our mindset-wise approach to this. It has to be valuable content, just free, valuable stuff. Like, man, that was really cool. I like following these guys. You know, like they give really cool information. Like that made total sense. Thank you for sharing that. And if you can be entertaining somewhat in the meantime, that's when you go a little bit more popular and viral on the high end.
Of course.
We're not really trying to become viral. We just want to bring valuable content and speak the language and at least some tidbits on problem solving for our avatar. And then just delivering that and be consistent. We try to do like maybe 4 to 5 posts a week.
Yeah, and you do that really well. And you are consistent with it. And the content that you could create is very easy to understand for the consumer base because not everyone went to study biology
No.
or went to a postgraduate, and doesn't have the anatomical knowledge that you and your team have.
Right.
So I think that you guys do a really successful job at creating content, distributing it frequently, and staying on top of that to add value to the consumers. Because it's not the gym owners that are watching it; it's the average consumer.
Correct. And usually, and those people, like they said, they're laymen's, right? They don't know what the biomechanics of the rotator cuff. I'm not going to make a video on the biomechanics of the rotator cuff because no one's going to know what that even means,
of course,
and how that even matters to them. But if I'm like, if you have pain with overhead presses and jerk press or like push-ups, this could be a reason. And here's an exercise that can be helpful to prevent that or make it feel better. Oh, that makes sense. I do have shoulder pain right here. Maybe I should call these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we want to stimulate.
Can you talk about a success story that you've had? Maybe someone who's come in, and you don't have to get super. I know that there's some things that you have to keep under the radar, confidential. But a success story that you've had.
Totally. So, and I wrote 2 of them down. And really, it's the success is like the impact that was brought,
of course,
which is really cool. So I had a young athlete that was playing sports in high school locally, and I had come in contact with them, and they reached out. So this individual was had knee pain for a long time, and then also had back pain for a long time. All right, and keep in mind too, with youth athletes, one of my favorite populations to work with. If they have any desire to go to the next level of college or even just enjoy their experience in high school, which for many people, if you talk to them in their middle ages or 50s, they still talk about their high school football. Yeah. Like, oh man, we did that. It was so much fun. There's a small window of time that youth athletes have for legitimate organized sports. They have 3 to maybe 6 years, and that's it. Right? They go into like high school. They're not going to make varsity as a freshman most of the time. Sophomore year, they might get called up or get some PT. So it's like playing time. Sophomore year, junior year, senior year. They have 3 years of 3 seasons, and that's it to like make a statement. Basketball, football, volleyball, soccer, whatever. And if they're hampered by injuries in the meantime, or multiple injuries or surgeries and stuff like that, it just diminishes that even more. Yeah. Now they're down to 1.5 years. Now they're down to 1 season that can shape their whole trajectory of their life almost, especially if they have, right? Because the character building and the friendships made and the experiences, self-confidence, and that just helps them go in. There's a lot of benefits to sports.
I just think about the undergraduate potential, right? Yeah. I mean, if you are injured for the majority of your high school career, you lose the potential. And that's what's led me and led you to the universities that we went to, was specifically sports.
Yeah, 100%.
Which guided our whole lives, really.
Totally. So. And like the character building and all the life lessons learned of sports and just challenges and discipline and perseverance, whatever. So they have a small window. So let's consider that, right? We have to appreciate that small window. So I live vicariously through my patients with that. But anyway, this individual is going to be a junior, all right? And they had chronic knee pain and chronic back pain. Got an MRI and they had a meniscus tear. Not always determinate for surgery. They elected to have surgery. Then he continued to have back pain, and he had an unstable vertebrae in his back. All right, it was a unstable spondylolisthesis in his L5. All right, so he had to get a fusion surgery at the age of 16. Wow. All right, he was still having residual back and nerve pain. All right, and this person also had other side knee pain too. Probably compensation patterns and just sleeping, walking, trying to exercise, trying to go back to practice. And it was just all these compensation patterns. Definitely. Considering a third surgery on his other knee, on this person's other knee. So I met him, and this person was like meandering around, kind of in pain, not sure, was waiting for this MRI result, waiting to schedule this other time, waiting to schedule this other doc appointment, not really sure. So in the meantime, with all these waiting for scheduling and authorizations and stuff, and waiting for results for another MRI in the future, and then maybe pursuing surgery again for the other visit, nothing's happening, right? That's like a 6 to 8 week window of time of just like waiting. You know what I mean? Yeah. When I don't hate surgery by any means. Sometimes you need surgery, but sometimes you don't need surgery, right? Yeah. And we can at least triage and figure that out together. So anyway, this person didn't need, in my opinion, based on what they were feeling and how they were doing well, I didn't think they needed a surgery, right? So I was like, come in and check these things out. Your back is stable. It's solid. The fusion worked. The hardware's in place. So I don't think surgery is the route you need to go. Let's work together, right? So they worked with me for about 3 months leading up to their next football season. Wow. He crushed it. They were telling me, like, you're not going to be able to play again, maybe not ever, and then definitely not this season. He was feeling good enough to where he could play and suit up in practice. And I was like, let's dip our toe. Let's go non-contact, full pat, see how you do. Okay, he felt fine. Great. Let's continue that. Maybe add some hitting drills, some contact. Felt fine. Let's dress out, go full practice because you're cleared by the doc, all right? The surgery was good.
Yeah.
So he was cleared and he practiced. Felt fine. Still some residual symptoms here and there. We mediated that. And then he played 4/5 of that. He only missed one game.
Wow.
Crushed it. Okay, then he was getting looks by this D1 program at the end of that season because he was leading the team in reception yards, and he had a sack his first game. He was leading the team in touchdowns, and he got looks at these D1 programs who were talking to him for the next season. Played the next season. He was still having issues in the meantime, so we were mediating that. Played the whole next season, and then got a D1 offer to play college sports.
Amazing.
Could you imagine, if this person? I'm not saying I'm the best in the world. All I'm saying is that we set him up for success and enabled him to have a great trajectory.
You're not going to say it, but I'll say it, which is that he probably would have never faced the opportunity to speak with a D1, Division I program. If he didn't play, the opportunity wouldn't have been there.
You had to have playing time. You had to have durability. Yeah.
That's it. It's as simple as that.
So anyway, he got a D1 scholarship, and they're there right now in training camp,
awesome.
Which is sick, right?
That's huge.
So that was a really prominent story that sticks in my head where I'm like, man, a small window, we capitalized on it, and then now this kid's playing D1 football, you know what I mean, which is insane. Coming from a fusion at 16 years old and is back.
So young.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And there's other in the story that this lady who's older, right, she's in retirement age, but she had this chronic severe leg pain that was referred nerve pain, and evidence on an MRI of some abnormalities in her spine and her back, which are very prevalent for everybody, especially over the age of 42. So you're going to have some kind of herniated disc or facet arthropathy or degenerative changes and osteophytes, whatever, bone spurs in your back, whatever. Those things are super common, but it doesn't dictate symptoms or dictate functionality and trajectory for improvements. But anyway, so she was debating about going surgery and was like really bad leg pain. We worked with her for, several weeks. Things got a little better, bad day, good days, bad days. But the overall trend was a positive trend, which is I try to educate them. It's not going to be a linear progression.
Of course, yeah.
And then she was like, I feel great today. Like I don't have any pain. I slept really good the past couple days. I think we turned a corner, and she was back to playing some pickleball. She was back to dancing at her country club, with her. She wrote a glowing review for us, which is awesome, Google review. But yeah, she was like, my life has returned. I can actually eat breakfast and not have severe leg pain. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. The impact brought. She's like, my social life has been returned. The depression, because it affects the mental health totally.
Of course.
Was returned, and I was like, that's awesome. That's what we do it. That's awesome.
It all works in correlation. The physical health is definitely going to affect the mental health, right? If someone can't walk around or someone can't do something that they used to be able to do without pain or without any hurdles, it's going to cause something indifferent with the psyche. It 100% is. But the one thing that you said earlier, and it might have been this woman's issue as well, is that the physiology of human beings is amazing, but the body just compensates for itself in different ways. Your one knee hurts, so you're walking heavier or different on the other knee, and then the other knee starts to hurt. You see that a lot, don't you?
Oh, 100%. Right. Athletes are the best compensators. That's what we always say in our fellowship program. So just considering that joint dysfunction is super prevalent, and to make up for that, another joint is just going to compensate, which causes another dysfunction. So everything's definitely intercorrelated, and piecing all that stuff together is part of our job to stop it from happening, identify why and what's going on and the root cause, and then how can we solve that from manual therapy, interventions, and other modalities, dry needling, whatever it's for soft tissue, and then the corrective exercise on top of that to fix it. But yeah, totally. So everything's intercorrelated and interconnected. So there's a lot of compensation patterns, and active people and athletes are the best compensators.
I can resonate with that.
Yeah,
Makes
totally.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally.
I've been there many, many times.
Yeah.
Bringing things to an end here, let's go back to the overall high-level view of the business.
Yeah.
What's your long-term goal?
I don't know yet. I went into part of the imposter syndrome and self-doubt going into this business was I'll never have my own facility. I'm going to piggyback off of other gyms, so I just have low risk, low overhead, and I'll never have to make my own equipment. I don't sign a lease and sign personal guarantees, partly because I didn't think I could do it. And I never thought I would be at where I am now, where I like have my own legitimate facility that's pretty sweet and like really cool build out and great, cool equipment, whatever. And then multiple staff members. So going into that, I was like, I'm definitely not going to have more than one location. I'm not going to have my own facility. I'm going to piggyback and have low overhead for low risk, probably most likely because of the insecurity and self-doubt and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And who knows? Like as of right now, my big picture, I thought was just to have this facility and really maximize the effectiveness and efficiency of this one spot versus opening multiple locations, because the quality control gets more challenging. But with the right hires and the vetting process and delegation and internal systems and processes and operations, it becomes more realistic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. We'll see. You know what I mean? But as of right now, I have my own facility. My plan is to bring in another clinician for 3 staff, full-time physical therapists on staff, to allow me more time to grow the business and focus on the 30,000-foot view stuff.
Yep.
As of right now, that's the next plan.
I feel you on that. I think that we're both years into our businesses.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah, the same.
It continues to revolutionize, and new things come into play, and then the world changes, and we add services or products to help facilitate that. And I just feel like I'm always at the beginning.
Totally.
And we're doing a lot better. We're growing. We're always expanding, but at the same time, we're learning so much that's building more into that infrastructure to help create a long-lasting business that's just going to prosper.
Yeah, totally.
But how do you measure success?
Oh, man, good question. From a philanthropic view and overall mission, vision, and why, it's the impact that we can help people. Like those 2 patient cases I was talking about, with like, man, their life was returned. Like the quality of life and like their status and just quality is just completely restored. You know what I mean? Yeah. And elevated, and then hopefully even lower risk of things coming back in the future with the education that we can bring to them during their experience with us. Yeah. But from a business standpoint, I feel like the scorecard will always be gross revenue, followed by profit margin. Yeah. Like if you don't have a healthy business and profit to play with, then you can't invest. Where it can be viewed upon, in my opinion, from not as experienced or with the right mindset business people or laymen's that aren't in business, as in like, oh, profit, all you care about is money. It's like, if we don't have profit to play with and I can't hire great team members and change their lives and pay them well, and I also can't invest in other opportunities to help people even better.
Of course. Yeah.
You have to have profit to play with, and that's the health of the business.
It keeps the wheel spinning at the end of the day.
Right, totally.
That's what keeps the whole ship moving, and it continues to allow you to be able to do things and your team to do things to continue to. And
the other thing too is like another philanthropic aspect of profit to play with afterwards and gross revenue, the health of the business. You follow Cody Sanchez?
I do.
She's a young entrepreneur, young as in like she's like under 40. Sorry if you're over 40. Not what you would expect. Like a 55-year-old Warren, like her 68-year-old Warren Buffett type.
Yeah, of course.
She's like a youngish entrepreneur who just has a lot of wisdom behind her years, in my opinion. But anyway, she was always saying like, if you are worried about looking greedy or like profit driven, if you want to make a difference, imagine how much more difference and impact you can make philanthropically or just in the community if you had a ton of money.
Definitely.
Where could you apply that to, and would it be better than in your hands versus the government?
It's definitely
number one, or like other people. If you have the right vision and mindset, imagine the impact you could make if you had unlimited money and resources.
Money is a tool, right? And exactly. I look at it as a measurable element to understanding how you could continue to expand, right? If you were losing weight, you're measuring pounds. Yeah, totally. If you're measuring business, you're measuring finances. Yeah. So it's just a factor of measurement, but it's a tool. And because of that tool, if you do not have it, you cannot give it. Yeah. So early in my career, someone told me. You
can't leverage it.
Yeah. Early in my career, someone told me, you cannot give what you do not have. That goes with anything, whether it's experience, it's literally a tool like money or anything else out there.
Knowledge and competency.
Everything. Yeah. So that's definitely the truth.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Totally. Really I'm glad. This is fun. And we'll have more conversations.
Yeah. We'll definitely have you on again, talk a little bit more in depth, get more ingrained into the physiological aspects of things, because there's a wealth of knowledge that you offer in that aspect.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you and your whole team. Maybe we'll have a couple of you come in
That'd
at
be
the same
cool.
time. Yeah, we'll talk more deeper into that and have a couple of them jump in here. But if you are interested in learning more about Kyle and his entire business structure, or if you are interested in physical therapy in the West Palm Beach area, he's in the center of West Palm Beach, right next to our facility, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So thanks for
That's the plan.
Thanks for being part of this today, and we loved having you on.
Definitely, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.